Hey there, everyone. What's up? Today we are going to look at my PlayStation 1 collection, and the reason we're doing that is because this month the PlayStation has reached 20 years old, which is amazing to me. That means I got the original PlayStation not immediately, but a few months after it came out, probably when Resident Evil came out. So maybe 6 months after it came out in the U.S. But that was I was nearly done with high school at that point, um, which makes me feel really old actually because you know when I got it would have been what 19 years ago. That means I would have been essentially that would have been my senior year of high school. That's a long time, but there was a lot of stuff going on with the PlayStation at that time. When it first was announced, I wasn't really excited for it. You might be surprised to know that I was mostly a PC gamer at that point. I did have all the other systems, though. I had everything that was out, the 16-bit stuff. But at that point, I wasn't playing a lot of the consoles that much. I was mostly playing stuff on PC. Um, I mean, we're talking like 1996 or so here, and that's like that's like the golden age for me for PC gaming. Stuff like Fallout was out. I mean, there was like no way the consoles were going to be able to beat that. I was playing tons of Dungeons and Dragons games and stuff on the PC. And when the PlayStation 1 was announced, my friend who I normally played PC games with was super hyped for it. He was like, "I got to get it right away," and I'm sure he did actually. I'm pretty sure he got it on launch because I remember playing Battle Arena Toshinden, which was the hype game for the. I mean, it seems silly to say that now, but like it was like the hype game for the PlayStation when it was coming out. It was in every ad up until the launch. And there was that kind of epic PlayStation launch thing where they were the marketing campaign was this thing that it was the kind of catchphrase for it was "You are not ready," and it was a red letter E. Those commercials were everywhere, and seriously, Toshinden was like the game everybody wanted to play out of that. And when Toshinden came out, I didn't really like it that much. I know a lot of my friends liked it, but I'm like totally a 2D Street Fighter kind of guy. I like King of Fighters and Street Fighter. If it's 3D, I'm probably not super excited about it. But yeah, the PlayStation I got pretty quickly for stuff like Resident Evil. But yeah, there was a lot of good stuff that came on the PlayStation. I remember stuff like Final Fantasy coming out, and that was like, I mean, one of the last games I bought for the Super Nintendo was probably a Final Fantasy game. Um, Beyond stuff I got later, but I mean, the last game I bought new in stores was probably Final Fantasy 3 a la 6. And when Final Fantasy 7 came out for the PlayStation, that was amazing. And I was like way out of high school at that point. I think I was in college at that point when Final Fantasy came out. And I remember sitting in my room and playing it, and everyone was like, my girlfriend at the time would come over and be like amazed by the summons. So, when you get like Knights of the Round to come out, it's like a million guys running at you. It's pretty awesome. I mean, it doesn't look very good right now, but at the time it was amazing. And the PlayStation was amazing at the time too. Um, it's not actually my favorite 32-bit console, but it's still a great console, and I have a pretty okay size collection for it now. And it's not even a console that I actively collect for, which is like strange. I was thinking like I don't have that many PlayStation games. I don't know how long this video will be. It's gonna be long because I had way more than I thought I did, and it's kind of a testament to the PlayStation itself that even now I could still like get a ton of games for it without even trying. And because there's a lot, we'll just hop right into these. But you can see some of them behind me. But yeah, first game here in the pile is IQ Final. This is Intelligent Cube. Um, I had Intelligent Cube originally when it came out. It was kind of a big game for a while. I remember when it came out and everybody wanted it and everybody was playing it, and I had it. This is IQ Final, by the way. I don't know if this came out in the U.S., but it's the same game essentially with more characters and different, different puzzle patterns. But this game, it's still fun today. Still a really fun puzzle game. If you can get it, there's a PSP port, I believe, or a PSP version. I would recommend that, or just get the original. I think it's expensive in the U.S., but it's like $1 in Japan. So import it if you can. It's not like you need to read anything. Great game. This game is really fun. I remember my friends all wanted to play this all the time. It was such a good game, and it still is. IQ, Intelligent Cube. Next we've got, as I mentioned, Final Fantasy VII. I probably, in all honesty, I probably wouldn't have bought this again if I didn't actually buy this again. Somebody gave this to me. Same goes for Final Fantasy VIII, which I also have. I wouldn't have rebought these. I have these in the US, and I got them when they originally came out, and I played through them, and I loved them. They were great. I don't have Final Fantasy IX because I wasn't given that one, and I didn't rebuy it. But I did, again, that was another one I bought immediately when it came out. Such a good system, and having the Final Fantasy was like the biggest thing they could have done for the PlayStation. It was so good. Here, the next game we'll talk about is one that I think people hate universally, but it's a game I really like. This is Taiyo no Shippo, or Tale of the Sun. And Tale of the Sun is kind of this weird, low budget game where you're a caveman and basically it's an open world caveman simulator. You kind of run around, hunt mammoth, eat stuff, and die. And then when you die, you become a new caveman who is like a next generation, who's usually a little faster, a little stronger, a little smarter. And your goal really is to kill mammoth and take their horns and their bones and build a tower to the sun. That's really the point of the game, but it's not explicitly telling you that in the game. I mean, there is a map. Like, there's not really a map, but there's like a kind of cave painting like thing that shows your progress of building the tower to the sun. But when I first played this game, I rented it, and I had no idea what I was doing. Just like spent hours running around killing stuff and not really knowing what's going on. And then this is one you have to read the manual for, because after that, I mean, because I originally rented it and it didn't come with a manual. It was like a generic Blockbuster disc in a generic Blockbuster case. So I didn't have a manual, so I didn't actually know what was going on. But it was still fun enough and interesting enough that I was like, even though I don't really know what's going on, I want to play this more. So after I finished renting it, I went and bought my own copy. And in all honesty, when I first moved to Japan, this was one of the first games I bought. I got a PlayStation 2 like pretty quickly. And take note, I moved to Japan in 2005, so that was like pretty much before, and that was the current gen at that point. I just got another PlayStation 2, and there was a game shop like a 5 minute walk from my house. Not even 5 minutes, probably 2 minutes walk from my house, and it was a really good game shop. And I got this and a couple other PlayStation 2 games, but PlayStation 1, this was the first game I bought. Tale of the Sun. Look up a video on it if you have never heard of it or never played it. It looks awful, and it looks like you have no idea what you're doing, but it's bizarre and fun. So, yeah, Tale of the Sun. Let's see, we've got another puzzle. This is Super Puzzle Fighter 2. This is another game that I had originally on the American PlayStation. This was a game that actually was in my arcade, but we had this game and we always used to play it. My girlfriend at the time really liked this game, and she liked all types of arcade puzzle games, actually. And when I had this, we played it all the time. Something that was like a constant gameplay of Puzzle Fighter. And we had like Puzzle Fighter tournaments. Everybody liked Puzzle Fighter. It's so good. Puzzle Fighter is another game that I have like every version I can think of. I've got it on the Saturn, I've got it on the GBA, I've got it on Xbox Live, which is nice, but nobody plays it, so there's nobody to play Whatever. Next, we've got Soul Hackers. This is the original Soul Hackers, not the original one on the Saturn, obviously, but a port of that one to the PlayStation. And this one has like a little bit more content. It's got the extra dungeon, I believe, and it's got some stuff you can use on your Pocket Station if you have one of those. But actually, all the stuff that's on here was this is like essentially the version that became the 3DS version, which has the Pocket Station things as Street Pass stuff with better graphics. That's about it, though. Soul Hackers, it's like the casualized version of Devil Survivor, the first one. I mean, it's a better game than the first Devil Survivor because it's casualized, actually, which seems paradoxical, but it's actually a better game for it. Continuing on, we've got Persona. This is the first Persona. Um, yeah, I really like the first Persona a lot more than most people who are Persona fans do. First person dungeon crawler with third person battles. It's good for me. This game also is awesome in the sense that it has two different, like, it's like two entirely different games in the thing. So you can play through the first scenario and get, a solid 60 hours out of it, and then you can go through and play another solid 60 hours in a totally different story with a few different characters. It's actually a pretty cool setup. This game is way better than people give it credit for. And next we have this is Persona 2. This is Sumi or Innocent Sin, and this is the first Persona 2. Persona 2 is probably my favorite Persona game. I don't, um, I know people like 3 and 4 because of the social links and whatever, but Persona 2 has, I think, the most interesting characters. I like the characters of Persona 2. I like the way Persona 2's characters are adults with adult problems. They're not like all students. I mean, the first one, they're all students for the most part. But in Batsu, which I have in here somewhere, I think I do, is most of the characters are adults. I mean, they're like adult age, doing adult. They have jobs and things, and they have adult worries. So it's kind of like a more grown up persona, and the story is awesome. You get to fight Hitler in the end. It's pretty. It's good all around. Persona 2, definitely get on that. I'd recommend the PSP one if you are thinking of playing it, even though the second part doesn't have the PSP version. Let's see. Next, we've got Clock Tower. This is Clock Tower 1, which is a port of the Super Famicom game. This one wasn't released outside of Japan. Yeah, good game. I have a review of this, an actual review on my channel somewhere. But the coolest thing about this game is that it's got a lot of Dario Argento references, even the appearance of her, and a bunch of scenes in the game. I talk about that in the review, though, and show movie clips. But yeah, next we've got Clock Tower 2. And this was Clock Tower 1 outside of Japan. But yeah, another good one. This was a game that I actually had originally on the PlayStation as well. I was huge into horror games, which is why I pretty much got the PlayStation 1 for Resident Evil. Let's see. Next we've got Black Matrix Cross. This is a port of the Saturn Black Matrix to the PlayStation. I think it has maybe a little bit of extra content. I think it might have the extra content that's also in Black Matrix Advance on the Dreamcast, though I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's... yeah, okay. Anyway, this game is it's a strategy RPG with kind of three factions. You have like the devils and the angels and humans. It's pretty interesting, I think. This series is pretty interesting. I have every game in this series, and it's pretty good. I wanted to do a Let's Play of that, actually, at some point, but who knows. Let's see. Next we've got Battle Formation. Battle Formation is a kind of hex-based strategy game. It's there's a problem with Battle Matrix in Battle Formation that it's it's like almost strictly a multiplayer game. It feels like you're playing a board game, but you need other people. There's like no way to play the game otherwise. There's no goal if you don't have other people. So I mean, you can play against yourself, but this is kind of a Ultraman slash Gundam slash Kamen Rider game. I don't remember there being actually Kamen Riders in the game though. I think it's just like monsters from Kamen Rider, though I could be wrong. But I obviously I didn't put a lot of time in this because I couldn't find anybody who wanted to play it with me. If there's a, I mean, if anyone's played it and they're like, "What are you talking about? You can totally play it single player all the time." Tell me how, because I couldn't figure it out. And I read the manual. Next, we've got Parasite Eve 2. Parasite Eve 2 was another game that I got originally at launch. Not obviously not launch of the system when this game came out. And I like Parasite Eve 2, don't get me wrong, but I think it's not as good as Parasite Eve 1. And Parasite Eve 1, I also got, like, on the first day, that was like a game that I left work and went home and played that all night. Such a good game. That's in this pile somewhere. We'll come across it, so I'll talk about it then. But Parasite Eve 2, it was a little bit of a letdown for me at the time because I didn't think it was as good as one. But you know, in the end, it's still a pretty good game, and I would recommend Parasite Eve 2. Let's see. We've got a lot of other stuff here. This is the Tower, also known as Sim Tower, and it's a simulator. Sim Tower is kind of like an elevator simulator. Um, Essentially, like the way you win the game is to make sure the elevators are optimal and then put businesses where they gotta go. Um, that's it. Really, like elevator simulator, but it's still awesome. I mean, this pretty much all of the sim games are great, and this one is no exception. Next, we've got Dino Crisis. Dino Crisis. Um, I'm not like a huge dinosaur guy. Like, even when I was a kid, I wasn't like huge into dinosaurs or anything. So I remember when Dino Crisis came out, I think I rented it. I don't think I bought it, and I thought like, whoa, it's like Resident Evil, but not horror and dinosaurs, which I'm not super hyped about. So I never bought Dino Crisis. I just played through it once. Um, it's all right. It's a. I know a lot of people like Dino Crisis a lot, but I'm not like just not huge into dinosaurs. That's that's the thing. If you are, it's probably great. But if you like tank controls and dinosaurs, um, next we've got Dark Messiah. This is a horror game by Atlas. I forgot what the name of it outside of Japan is. Something different though. And it's essentially like a runaway kind of horror game where you're being chased and you just have to run away. And you have like different characters you can interact with, and the game changes. That's like a pretty cool part is that the game changes depending on which characters you use and how you interact with them. So like there's an option to have a schoolgirl and she has like some kind of special ability, and then there's like this kind of like crazy psycho killer guy, and a woman who I think has like a rocket launcher. I'm not sure, but like sometimes it's helpful to use each of the characters in certain situations. But whatever. It's kind of a horror game. It's fun. Next we've got Front Mission 2. Front Mission 2 was strategy RPG with mechs, made by SquareSoft. I should make that important. SquareSoft. Anyone knows PlayStation 1 era Square is like untouchable. Everything they put out was gold, and this is no exception. Front Mission is great. Next we've got Silent Hill. Silent Hill was so good, and I played this originally with a friend, And I've told this story before, but we played. It was like me and two other guys, and we were in New Hampshire visiting this our friend. And he had moved to New Hampshire with his girlfriend, and he was miserable, and she was slowly going crazier and crazier. And eventually, like, we had to go up to New Hampshire and secretly move him out of the house while she was gone because she had joined a crystal healing UFO cult. Not making any of that up. But when we played this game the first time, we were like glued to the TV. We played for 8 hours straight. I think we just rented this and we just kept playing and playing and playing. We couldn't stop, and we were just like switching back and forth with the controller and in certain stages to run through it. It was such a fun experience because it was creepy and like we were so into it that like when stuff happened, like you got like a big reaction from everybody, and it was a really fun experience playing Silent Hill the first time. And yeah, this game, really Silent Hill is probably one of my favorite horror series, and I think a lot of it has to do with that, um, the way I first played it. Next, we've got Final Fantasy Tactics, and Final Fantasy Tactics was another game that I got immediately when it came out. I used to be a huge, huge Final Fantasy fan until about the PlayStation 2. So, but Final Fantasy Tactics is still like one of the best strategy RPGs you can play, and I replayed it recently on the PSP. But I remember playing this the first time and thinking like this game is really great, and I put so many hours into it, over 100 at least, just running around, fighting, leveling up, doing various battles. It's such a good game, and like just the random battles is enough to like jump into the game and jump out just because if you just like the system, you don't even really have to worry about continuing the story. So like even after you beat the game, you can just kind of wander around and fight stuff, which is nice. So Final Fantasy Tactics, I don't think you need my recommendation for that. I think everybody knows it's a good game. Um, oh, here's Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve. Like I said, I got this originally when it came out, and I'm not sure of the date actually when it came out, but I remember like I'm trying to think of it if it came out in the winter or if just the game is in the winter because um, it's hard to remember that kind of thing. It's been like 20 years. Um, but yeah, Parasite Eve. This is probably one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games, just hands down. Such a great game, and it's kind of sad that like I actually did recently play the third birthday, and I didn't think it was horrible, but I thought like it's nowhere near as good as this, and I wish they would make another game like the first Parasite Eve, but it's not likely. Continuing on, we've got Star Soldier. Star Soldier is a 3D Capcom fighter. You might recognize this fellow here from Marvel vs. Capcom. But yeah, Star Soldier, not Star Soldier. That's Shooter. Star Gladiator. Sorry, Star Gladiator. Um, yeah, this is not a terribly great game. It's an all right game, but I guess like it could be better if you like 3D fighters. I just don't. So it's just kind of okay. Here is another game that we put a ton of time into and everybody loved. That's Parappa the Rapper. This game was like a phenomena. Everybody played this game. I think in that time, like it was the kind of thing that like I think it was like one of those kind of slow burn games where like when it came out, a few people heard of it, and then they showed their friends, and then their friends went out and bought it, and their friends went out and bought it. It was that kind of thing because I remember getting it initially when it came out, um, because it was a kind of thing like I think I rented it once on a whim, and then it was so awesome that I just like had to have my own copy. So and it's like right if you play it now, it's like a pretty hard. Like yet simple to play kind of music rhythm game. It's kind of the genesis of that kind of stuff, and this game was the kind of the catalyst for the music rhythm game boom in the PlayStation 1 era, because everybody liked Parappa the Rapper, and I think everybody knows at least the first song from it with the onion, the kick punch, it's all in the mind thing. I think everybody knows that. Let's see. Next we've got something that's another game that I think is really great. This is Dark Seed. Dark Seed is a point-and-click adventure that I originally played on the Amiga, and I had an Amiga in the 90s, and yeah, like I said, PC. I was PC gaming, Amiga and DOS. But Dark Seed is one of those games that I really liked, even though it's stupid hard if you don't have like some kind of hint or guide, because there's stuff in it is seemingly random, and there's the rules for the beat, like you're kind of switch between these two worlds in the game, and there's like lots of creepy HR Giger art, but the rules in the game don't seem to be universal throughout the game. So like sometimes you can do things in the real world that affect the dark world, and sometimes it doesn't work. Like the same thing won't work in other places. It's kind of like arbitrary, I think, and it's not like the best game, but it's got like this awesome atmosphere, and the story is great, and if you can get through it, it's a good game overall. And there's a sequel, but I think I don't have that on the PlayStation. I might have it on the Saturn. Next we've got Kamaitachi no Yoru. I don't know what they call this game in English, actually. It's something stupid, I guess. Because Kamaitachi is like a kind of a little, I don't know, like a rodent of some kind with blades for hands and legs that runs across the ground really fast and chops people's legs off as it runs by. It's kind of a Japanese monster of some kind, but this is not a monster story. It is like one of the first like super popular visual novels, though. And it was originally, this is a port of the Super Famicom game, which I also have, but it's kind of a mystery, a murder kind of suspense story where you're in this kind of I can't think of the English. Like a lodge of some kind, like a ski lodge or something, and you're trapped there with a bunch of people, and there's a murderer, and you got to figure out who it is before you die. And I want to mention that there's a lot of cool things you can do in this game, because there's like whole other stories that can happen. Like you can kind of go through, and then like suddenly you've entered the psychic story. So like there's a story about a psychic, and it's like a totally different branch of what could have happened. So it's got a bunch of those in this game. It's a pretty cool thing altogether. They recently made a new one of these on the Vita, actually. I don't think it was localized. Next we've got Biohazard 2. This is Resident Evil 2. I remember getting this and being so excited for it, and I was not let down by Resident Evil 2 when it came out. I think that was like the kind of game that it was like, everybody liked Resident Evil, and it was really fun, but when Resident Evil 2 came out, it was like better in every way, I thought. So I think a lot of people feel the same way, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. And it's got Leon for the first time. It was pretty interesting, because you weren't just trapped in the mansion. You could go kind of throughout Raccoon City, which was nice. Yeah, I don't think anyone needs me to talk about Biohazard 2. It's everywhere. Everybody knows it. Next we've got Bushido Blade. This is Bushido Blade 2, actually. And Bushido Blade was another game that we played a ton of. And I think this was also another Square game. And essentially in the PlayStation 1 era, when Square put out a game, I bought it on the first day every time. No matter what it was, no matter like what they put out, it was just like automatic Squaresoft name on it. You got to buy it because it's going to be awesome. And and that wasn't even really a bad policy, because there was really very few games that you got from Squaresoft in the US that were bad. or like not all that fun. I can think of a few like that fighting game with Cloud, whatever it was. I forgot the name. Air Guys. That's not it. I don't think. Whatever. Um, let's see. Next we've got. Okay, that's what it is. Dark Tales from the Lost Soul. I didn't remember the from the Lost Soul part. But Dark Tales here is kind of a visual novel with some kind of dungeon crawler esque elements. It's almost like an FMV game, actually, with kind of visual novel elements. It's like a essentially it's like a half visual novel, half FMV game. And it's a horror, it's like three short horror stories essentially that you're going through. It's like having three short horror visual novels. It's actually pretty interesting and marginally fun, but the stories are good, so I didn't feel bad about playing through this. Next we've got Black Matrix Double O, or it could be Double Zero actually. I don't remember. But this is a prequel to the Dark Matrix games, and it's coincidentally, I think it's the last PlayStation game released in Japan that wasn't a remake of some kind. Pretty cool to have it, and it's part of the Black Matrix series, so again, it's a strategy RPG. I just wanted to show you guys the manual for this game because it's like literally a book. It's not even a manual, like a folded over manual. It's like an actual book. It's I don't know. Thought that was interesting because this case is really heavy and it's like hard to close all the way because the manual is so big. But yeah, next we've got this is what is it? Chou Mashin Eiden Wataru, another step, and some of you may recognize that because it's an anime, but in the US, we got one of these games. It was the launch game, pack-in game for the TurboGrafx 16, Keith Courage, and Alpha Zones. This is essentially Keith Courage and Alpha Zones, the RPG. When you play it, well, I haven't played through the whole game, but I put a little bit of time into it just to try it out. And it's funny because when I'm playing it, I don't know the story of this anime, but every time I see the character, it's Keith Courage. it's just Keith Courage to me. So so having this is kind of like having, for me, it's like having a Keith Courage RPG. For people who know the anime or whatever, it's probably a pretty good anime RPG. Next we've got Tearing Saga. Tearing Saga is essentially Fire Emblem. It's made by the creator of Fire Emblem, and Nintendo was really mad that they made this because they sued them after it came out. But yeah, it is essentially Fire Emblem on the PlayStation. So if you look at this character here, that's the main character. Apparently, his hair was originally blue. If you can imagine this guy with blue hair, you essentially have Marth. Anyway, next we've got Kagero, and this is Kagero. I mean, it's a trap setting game. It recently came out on the Vita, also a sequel to this. Really, this is a great series. It's Tecmo's Deception in the US, but yeah, definitely a good game. Next we've got, what is it? King of Producer. And King of Producer is a simulation game like Kairosoft's game dev. I don't remember. Game iPhone game from Kairosoft. But this is essentially a game dev simulator. So you run a game company and you have to make your own games and sell them. So sometimes you can, make some wacky stuff. There's lots of categories and lots of games you can make and lots of interesting things to do. If you like simulation games, this one is a pretty good one, actually. It's fun because, you get to make wacky games, and sometimes they fail because they're too weird, or sometimes you get these weird hits because, pick these bizarre, like a sumo fishing game or something. It's pretty interesting. Next, we've got Torniko no Daiboken 2. This is a sequel to the first one, which was a Super Famicom game, and this is a mystery dungeon game. So it's a roguelike with the shopkeeper from, what's it called? Dragon Quest. So you can see a little slime right there. But yeah, mystery dungeon games, generally good. I haven't played, actually, I can't say they're generally good because a lot of them are either Chocobo or Pokemon, and I haven't played any of those. But the non Pokemon and Chocobo ones that I've played are all generally good roguelikes, so this can throw that in that category. Next one is Velda Senki. This is a kind of visual novel slash dog fighting game, something like Crimson Skies. It's an interesting mashup, I thought, so I picked it up. I haven't played through the whole thing. I just like a lot of these. Like I'm not a huge fan of these kind of flight dog fighting games, so I didn't find like a lot of fun out of it. But it would probably be more fun if I liked those kind of games because the story is, from what I played of it, was kind of interesting. I just didn't want to go through the flying parts. Oh, next we've got some more good stuff. This is the drugstore. The drugstore is a drugstore simulator. You basically run a chain of drugstores, and you can go into the drugstores and make the layouts and change what the stuff you're selling and the locations and the flow of the store, and the kind of policies for your drugstore altogether. It's pretty interesting and deep for a drugstore simulator, but what can you do? It's pretty good stuff. If you like simulators, there's so many simulators on the PlayStation 1 that are awesome. Next, we've got the Bistro, and the Bistro is a restaurant simulator. And this is a pretty cool game, actually, because it's a restaurant simulator, but depending on the type of restaurant you have, the gameplay, kind of what you're doing in the game, changes drastically. So if you're going to like open a Chinese restaurant, the way you have to run the restaurant is totally different from if you open like an Italian restaurant or like a pizza shop or something. It's pretty interesting. It's a lot deeper than you would expect because it's kind of a budget title. Next we've got the Family Rest, which is the Family Restaurant. This is a family restaurant simulator. It's different from the Bistro in that it's less of a one restaurant you're simulating than it's like a chain of family restaurants you're so you can like kind of pick an overall menu for these restaurants, and you're trying to open more and more restaurants in this one instead of run one restaurant really well like in the other game. Yeah, another simulator. Speaking of more simulators, this is the Combini SP, and the Combini I talked about before, and I probably will talk about later. I will. Is a convenience store simulator. So that's the Combini, the convenience store simulator where you're running a convenience store, and again, it's like the what's it called, the drugstore simulator, except you're running a convenience store. But this one, the Combini SP, is a different beast altogether. I mean, you are running a convenience store, but it's kind of running a convenience store in alternate universes. So you have 3 alternate universes. You have Cat World, and you have RPG World, and Reverse City, which is like Evil World, I want to say. It's something like that. But it's pretty interesting because one is like running an RPG shop, and one is the Cat World is like everybody are these kind of anthropomorphic cats, and then the Reverse City is like you're selling stuff for evil people. It's pretty interesting. It's wacky and weird, and it's an interesting simulator that I didn't even know. I found randomly at a game shop, and I was just like, "What is the because I like the Combini, but I never heard. I thought like it's called the Combini Special, and I thought like, what? there's a, is it like a expansion? And I picked it up and I was like, this is not an expansion. It's something entirely different and wacky and weird. And I got it. And it is. Next, we've got Theme Aquarium, another simulation. This is like theme park, but you're running an aquarium instead of a, you know, a park. I love the theme park games and theme anything games, I guess. But yeah, Theme Aquarium, it's a pretty good game. It's not my favorite theme park game, actually. Theme Park is my favorite. But I don't think I have any of those on the PlayStation. I have, maybe that's on the Saturn. But yeah. Next we've got Eiretsa Deiko Z, which is Take the A Train. And this was originally on PC, and I played this originally on PC in English. But that was way, way back on DOS. And this is essentially a train company simulator, train station simulator. I did a review of the newest one on the 3DS, and I think that actually got localized on the 3DS in English. It might not have come out yet, but it might have. But anyway, if you, this is a really deep train simulator. This company ArtDink, who has made a bunch of the games that I've showed, is a pretty good company for making simulators, and this one especially is like their, you know, it's like their crown jewel. There's like 30 games in this series, I think, and they're all really deep and really interesting and really fun to play if you like that kind of like really heavy simulator where there's like so much stuff to handle and so many stats and so many things to keep track of. This is the game for you if you like that, because again, it's a really in-depth simulator. Let's see. Continuing on, we've got a whole lot of Kingsfield here. Oh, let's see. We've got Kingsfield and Kingsfield 2 and Kingsfield 3. These are made by From Software. They're first-person kind of dungeon crawlers. Not really, though. They're 3D action dungeon crawlers, not turn-based dungeon crawlers. But they are similar in tone, I think, to Dark Souls, in the sense that actually I think one of the games actually has like the plot is that there's like a kingdom that's been encircled by fog and people can't escape, and you're in the kingdom and you have to try to figure out who is the cause, and then there's a character that has the same name as Dark Souls. But whatever, it's not, it doesn't play anything like Dark Souls, not really, because it's first person, and like this you'll know when you play it, because like the swing speed of your sword is like you can see the hand moving on the screen. Like it's about this fast. It's like so slow, and you kind of run through the environments and fight a lot of stuff, find some stuff, solve puzzles. It's good. The whole series is good. It's not easy, but it's good. Let's see. Next one is Rebus. You probably read that Rebus like I would. But the Japanese name is Rebus, and the English name is, I believe, Cartia, I think. But, yeah. This one, it's a pretty good RPG, actually, made by Atlas. I think someone from Final Fantasy did the artwork. I'm not really sure. I'd have to look. It doesn't say on the box, but you would know it if you saw it. But yeah, this is a pretty good game, actually. I think it was in the US, I think it was a Blockbuster exclusive, and so it might be a bit rare, actually. But yeah, Cartia. Oh, we're almost at the end. And next we've got another From Software game. This one is a horror game, Echo Night. Echo Night is a pretty interesting game. I think, I want to say Echo Night Beyond on the PlayStation is on the PlayStation 2, and that one's on a space station. But this one is more of a kind of different kind of ghost horror game where like you can't fight the ghosts. It's not like a fighting horror game. It's more of a psychological kind of, you have to run from everything and figure out ways around the ghosts or ways to divert them so you can get to where you're going. It's a different kind of game altogether, but it's a cool horror game also made by From Software. Next, we've got another game that I had originally on the PlayStation 1 when it came out. This is The Legacy of Kain, or Kain the Vampire, as it's called in Japan. But Legacy of Kain, or Blood Omen, I guess is the name. Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen. This is kind of an isometric game, and you're kind of running around on in like a semi-open world, in isometric kind of gameplay. And this came out in 1996, and it was exactly the kind of game that I was playing on the PC for like the past couple of years. And when this came out, I was like all over this. I thought it was like the coolest thing because like you got to play as, you know, Kain, and there were the world of Nosgoth is really dark, and the story is interesting, and the gameplay is fun. This was like one of the games that I like really convinced me that you know, I could still have a lot of fun on consoles instead of just going like completely PC gaming. And you know, eventually later on, like as I think everybody started to feel that way, because by the end, you know, of the PlayStation kind of era, PC gaming was, I mean, on life support at that point, and when nobody was making PC games anymore, everyone was making PlayStation games or PlayStation 2 games, and not PC games. But yeah, continuing on, we've got another From Software game here. This is Shadow Tower. Shadow Tower is another interesting one. It plays a bit like Kingsfield, but it's a bit quicker, and there's guns, and it's got a lot of interesting kind of stuff going on with it. It's a kind of a weird world. The world of Shadow Tower is a little bizarre to me. It, in all honesty, when the trailer for Bloodborne leaked before it was announced, it was just Project Beast, and it came out, and when they were showing those characters with the guns, and I thought like, is this gonna be Shadow Tower 3? Because like, you know, it was a more like Shadow Tower-esque kind of world where it's more modern, and you know, because there's guns, but there's also magic and things that you can do in the game, and like weird monsters and a weird tower. But it ended up being Bloodborne, which I'm fine with. I mean, but another Shadow Tower would be awesome. But yeah, we're almost done here. Next, we've got Tokyo Dungeon. Tokyo Dungeon is another first-person kind of action-based dungeon crawler. It's not unlike Kingsfield in a way, except it's gonna kind of cyberpunk world. It's kind of cyberpunk 20. It takes place in 2020. Cyberpunk Tokyo Dungeons. It's pretty cool actually. It's not a very good looking game, and you know, it's not an incredibly well known game, but you know, it's fun for what it is. And if you like cyberpunk games, you know, you can't really pass one up when they come along. So Tokyo Dungeon. I think there was something about came out of the case. Oh, okay. Yeah, there is like a little bit of a kind of picture in here. Maybe not. I wanted to show you guys like what it looks like, because there's a bunch of dungeons in the game that are like, they look like Aztec temples and stuff, and it's like a kind of a weird simulation world where you're going into. I guess you can kind of like make out the the kind of concept art in there, but you can see like you know, it's this kind of like anime-ish cyberpunk world. It's pretty cool actually. It's a pretty cool concept, and I wish they would make more games like that. Okay, this is the last game. Last game in the PlayStation Collection. This is Mizerna Falls. And Mizerna Falls is it's almost like a PlayStation 1 Deadly Premonition in a lot of ways. Like Mizerna Falls is this kind of weird I don't it's like a it's like Twin Peaks. It's open world. Obviously it doesn't have a draw distance of the PS2 or the PS3, but it is kind of open world, and the characters do move about town on a kind of schedule. And and there's a lot of weird characters and weird things are happening, and there's a kind of a cult. It's a pretty interesting game actually, and there's not a lot of info about it on. I don't think there's a lot of videos on YouTube about Mizerna Falls, but if you search it, check it out because it is a really interesting game. Um, yeah, this is Mizerna Falls. I should make a video on this just because there's not a lot of info. But yeah, it's an interesting game that was like a bit ahead of its time in the sense of like the scope of what it was trying to do. It didn't like do it quite so as well as other games did in the future, but at the time it's pretty ambitious. So yeah, that's it. PlayStation 1. Um, I actually have a pretty big list of PlayStation 1 games that I still need to get. I well, actually, this isn't even the whole thing because I can see other games in a pile over there um, that I got recently. There are a few games, Omega Boost I can see over there, and Superhero Sakusen, which is a tokusatsu kind of role playing game, and I have two of those. Well, the one in the sequel, and that's it. I'm not gonna go grab those because I've actually shown them recently in the pickup video. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it though. Unless there are more games, I gotta all these weird piles of games that are kind of categorized in the way I'm gonna play them, and I didn't go through those and pull out the PlayStation 1 stuff. But anyway, that's about it. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the old PlayStation 1 collection. Like I was saying, I still have a lot of games for the PlayStation 1 that I want. I'm just not super active in collecting for it because I have other stuff that I'm more focused on collecting. Um, so I think like if I had to choose, like the Sega Saturn trumps the PlayStation 1 for me. So I'm more interested in collecting stuff for the Saturn, and out of the 32-bit era there. So, if I'm going to buy a 32-bit game, I buy probably twice as much Saturn stuff as I do PlayStation stuff. And even then, like the Saturn right now isn't one of my major collecting focuses, I guess. I think recently it's been the PC Engine again, and the I don't know PSP, but I think I've almost finished with the PSP. I don't think there's a lot more for it that I want. But there is a lot more for the PlayStation 1, so eventually I'll be back to collecting that. And there's a lot more for the Saturn as well, but yeah, not important for right now. So anyway, I will see you guys in another video at some point. Who knows? Otherwise, it'll just be me Let's Playing stuff. So you won't see me. But anyway, whatever. See you guys next time.